everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Legally Blind Bookworm, and today's video is not my typical Friday video. Normally on Fridays, I do my week's reads and a wrap up on all of the books I've read. Well, I've got a couple more days before I start my Shelf Love Crate Readathon, so I'm still in the process of reading a couple more books, and as the next couple weeks will be filled with my Shelf Love Crate Readathon vlogging, I am going to do that video probably on Sunday or Monday, and I'm just going to do this video. So this is a book tag. This is the 2 books in one stone book tag, and I originally saw it on Gabbyreads' channel, so I'll link her channel down below. I believe she saw it on Shawn the Book Maniac's channel, so I'll also link him down below. What this is there are 10 questions and they all have to do with books or booktubers. So this is just a fun tag that I actually can do as a tag and not just as a book challenge. So let's get on to all of the questions.
Number 1, second to last book you read.
So for me, this would be #Moonstruck. #Moonstruck is the second book in the series by, I believe her name is pronounced like Sariah Wilson. This is a very conservative romance novel. This one follows a rocker, I guess, if you want to call her and both him that. She is in a band with her brothers and she falls in love with a rock star of a band that her band is doing a opening act for. Like I said, it's very conservative, so there's no intimate scenes in this at all, but there is tons of romance, and it was an awesome book. I loved both of the books in this series, so I'm definitely looking forward to the next book when I'm able to get it.
Number 2, second book in your TBR.
So my second book in my TBR, actually, I don't have much of a TBR. I'm waiting to go on to the Shelf Love Crate Readathon, so I'm just kind of picking books that are off of my list. One of the books that has been sitting there for a little bit, I guess, not too long, but I'm hoping to get to it before my Shelf Love Crate Readathon, would be Of Blood and Bones by Nora Roberts. This is the second book in the series. It follows year 1. I can't remember what the series is called off the top of my head. All I know about this is it's like a post-apocalyptic book. It's part, like I said, it's the middle book in the series. I've heard it's kind of like, it is a typical middle book, and you definitely need to read year 1 before you read Of Blood and Bones. All I kind of know is that there's a young girl who is the chosen one, and she is supposed to kind of make the world better after this post-apocalyptic virus kind of a thing. There's been a lot of backlash, I guess, on this book because of kind of the way Nora Roberts wrote it and the title, but I love Nora Roberts, so I am not going to look into like why she was told that, and I'm just going to read it, and I don't care.
3, 2 2-star reads.
So 2 2-star books. I don't normally rate my books with stars, so this took me a little bit to figure out which books they were, and I think I've had some more in the past than I have more recently. So the first one would be, I guess, my more recent 2-star read, which would be Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was okay. It was really off with how there were like 2 storylines going on. Because I did it in audio, it was sometimes hard to switch back and forth from one story to another, and it took some time. It was okay, but I definitely wouldn't reread it, and I don't think I'd recommend it to many people. I did hear Chelsea and some other booktubers talk about this book, which got me intrigued. I'm going to look into more books by Taylor Jenkins Reid and see if they're like this or if I like them, but I would say this was one of my 2-star reads. My other 2-star read would be The Hidden Heart. This is the first book in the Victorian Heart series by Laura Kinsale. This was the first book I think I had ever read by her. It's a historical romance novel that kind of follows some aristocrats in London society, which is normally a subject I really enjoy. This one, again, was okay. I liked, I think, the general storyline of it, but it didn't hit home, and it felt like super long. And I felt like maybe a lot of parts could be cut out. So I wouldn't say this is like down way below, but this is definitely, yeah, not one of my favorite books.
4. Two great books by the same author.
For this, I chose the author J.R. Ward. J.R. Ward is probably one of my favorite authors next to Nora Roberts and J.D. Robb. So J.R. Ward writes a number of series. Some of her more famous series are a series called The Black Dagger Brotherhood. This is about vampires and their romance novels. So both of the books actually are in the same series as well. So the first book I chose would be Dark Lover. This is the first book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. Dark Lover follows Wrath, who is the king of the vampires, and he's also a warrior. And he ends up falling in love with Elizabeth, or Beth as they call her. And she is a half vampire, half human, but didn't even know it. And so she ends up actually transitioning to becoming a vampire, which is a really hard transition anyway. It ends up that she is actually her father. It was one of the band of brothers or warriors that was under Wrath and a friend of Wrath. So that just kind of done it. She becomes the queen of the vampires. The reason I loved this book, among other things, is Wrath is blind, or almost blind, I guess, in this book. And he's kind of a sexy vampire. I love vampire books, so it was one of those that I really did enjoy, and was one of my favorites in the series. And whenever he shows up and he's a main focus of a book, there's been a couple of them. He's definitely on my top list. The other book is book number 3 in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. This is Lover Awakened. Lover Awakened is about another one of the brothers. This is about Zadist. He is actually a twin, and his twin shows up in the books, and then his twins book is later on. The twins got separated when they were either really young or right at birth, and Zadis became a blood slave. Kind of the storylines are like the females have to feed off the males to be able to get energy, and vice versa. So he was a blood slave. He has tattooing around his neck and his wrists, and then in the process of his life, he got a major scar on his face, so he's really kind of like a badass. And he falls in love with Bella, who is a female vampire who is like kind of a little bit part of the aristocrats, I guess. The reason I loved this is Zadis, because of his background, he is not very well educated, and Bella just loves him just so much. And there was a time in the book where Zadis' weaknesses really came out. And what I did love about this is by the end of the book, he grew so much in his overall attitude and his personality and his knowledge. He really wanted to grow and become more like intellectual, and I think that was just amazing to see his growth in this book. He's another one of my favorites, and I love seeing him and Bella and their child eventually, Nala. I love seeing them in the books, and they just make me smile all the time. So those are probably my 2 favorite books in the series. Been a while since I read them, but they're my 2 favorites.
5. Two Baled or hated books.
I didn't bail. I did bail on one of these. So the first book that I didn't bail on, because it was part of my reading challenge, was The Shadow in the Stars. This is the second book in the Victorian Heart series by Laura Kinsale. I hated this book. This was horrible. This overall storyline, I think, was okay, but the way it was written was bad, and it was really long, like the other book was. I hated this, and if I could have bailed on this book, I probably would have. I decided after this one that I was not going to read any more by her, at least for a while, because I don't know if they're all like this or not, but I was not interested at all. I don't normally bail on books, but that one I should have bailed on. The next book that I did bail on was actually for my Magic Readathon. I had chosen The Princess Diaries because it's based the movies are based on the book. So I thought, well, I love the movies and really had a good time with the movies. So I would go on to reading the books. I tried the book, and this was the first one, and I don't think I got very far in it. There were just too many differences. A lot of the characters that I loved from the movies were horrible in this book. It was just too many changes. And in my opinion, the movie is better than the book, which is not something I normally say very often. But I bailed on it, and I probably won't pick it up. And if anybody loves the movie, I honestly would say don't read the books. In my opinion, I wasn't impressed at all.
6. 2 favorite reads this year.
So my first book that I put in here was Hunted. This was a retelling, and it was in my Magic Readathon. This was a retelling off of Beauty and the Beast. I was glued to this book, and when I was done with this book, I was just like, it was amazing. I loved it. I loved how they did it, how even though it was realistic and we're kind of used to that whole Disney, fantasy-ish, like magic of, all of the characters being pieces of either, furniture or whatever from the Disney movies, this one still had a ton of whimsical stuff to it, and I think that just brought it in, and being realistic, it needed to be that way, and it was just awesome. If you're ever looking for a really good retelling that's close to the Disney movie but not exactly like the Disney movie but still has that whimsical feel, I would definitely go for Hunted. So the next book I chose, I've had a number of really good reads, and I'm trying to just kind of like break it up into some different series so that kind of gets everybody some feelings. So the next book I did choose was Playing for Keeps. This one is by Jill Shalvez. This, I believe, is number 7 or 8 in the Heartbreaker Bay series. I loved this series. This was a really easy, very typical romance novel series. So when I had to think of like my favorite books this year, this series definitely came up, and then I had to kind of pick which series or what book in the series I kind of wanted to do. So I did pick Playing for Keeps, which is her more recent book. This is the, like I said, the last book so far published. And I loved it. I think this whole series has been really good. Different personalities of the women, and yeah, loved this book. So if you're looking for a really simple, just book, romance novel that you can glue into and just zone for a while and just feel all happy, Playing for Keeps. That was probably one of my favorites this year.
7 new favorite booktubers.
As I'm kind of new here, I don't have a ton of super like new YouTubers or booktubers, and probably the ones I'm going to name are, like old school, or, they're pretty well known. I would say Gabby, because she is one of my favorites. I think her and I have a lot of similar reading styles. The first booktuber is actually Chelsea from, I think it's Chelseadoolingreads. I don't know exactly how you pronounce her name. She was actually the very first booktuber I ever found, and one of her tags was actually what I found, and it's working on one of my challenges as well. I love her content. Her and I have similar reading styles, although I wouldn't say they're exactly like what I normally read. But I've gotten some really good books from her, and I really do enjoy her, so her link will be down below. My other booktuber that I'm commenting on is Heather at Bookables. I've really enjoyed her videos, and she's doing the Shelf Love Create Readathon, so I'm super excited about that. I really do enjoy her videos and her all kinds of stuff with her. So she's my next favorite. Her link will be also down below. But of course, Gabbyreads, gotta love her too.
8 book I have reread.
I don't do a ton of rereads because I tend to remember the books a lot. But the most recent reread, which wasn't even that long ago, that I actually did finish, that I wanted to highlight, would be Outlander. This is the first book in the Outlander series that's by Diana Gabaldon. So Outlander is currently a TV show on Starz. Outlander, I believe, is 8 books long now, and kind of follows, I would say, like, it's a time travel back in time. Basically, it follows a 20th century English woman who falls in love with an 18th century Scottish Jacobite. And it follows their story, and she time travels a couple times back and forth, and it just follows their life from when he was like probably in his early 20s, and he's in his 40s in the later books, maybe even coming up to 50s. And I love these books. They're a historical fiction book. They have some romance in them. They have some action in them. I'm not much into like nonfiction and historical stuff, but when you can put like non-characters that aren't in history into historical things and make them fascinating, I really do enjoy that, which is something Diana Gabaldon has done with these books. Warning, these books are really long. Some of them are close to 1,000 pages, but there's a lot of information, and they're just amazing books. So I mean, if you like the TV show, I'm not going to say that you're going to love these, because the TV show is different than these in regards to content sometimes. But these are really great series, and I just love them. And I think I've reread them twice, maybe. Usually when the new book comes out, I have to end up rereading the other ones because I really don't remember all of them. And I believe there's 8 so far, and it just takes her a number of years to make the next one.
9. 2 favorite quotes from books.
I might say recently, I don't do a ton of quotes from books, but I have 2 quotes that one was recent and one was quite a bit older, but I just loved it. The first one, which is funny, I found it funny. I don't know if anybody else will find it funny. It is from Iron Kissed, which is, I'm not sure what book number, but it's in the Mercedes or Mercy Thompson books. This is a fantasy romance series. It has werewolves and vampires and shapeshifters, and she's a shapeshifter, and she shapeshifts into a coyote. I think it's a coyote. It's been a while since I've read these books, and she's married to the leader of the werewolf pack, but there's vampires and stuff like that. And one of the quotes that she said was very comical and got me laughing, and I've shared this a number of times on social media. It may not make sense when you first read it. The context is she is not much of a swearer, and her grandmother, her father, somebody like that, somebody in her family used to say this phrase when they were really pissed off. And the phrase is, so cheese is crusty, got all musty, got damp on the stone of a peach. I'm not going to say the words, but I hope you can kind of grasp it by how I said it. I just found it hilarious. And I guess if I was really pissed off, I might say it, but it's a mouthful, but she just ran it off, and everybody kind of like dropped their chin. It was great. It was great. And that is a really good series. So the next quote is a more recent read. So this one came from the book When It's Right, which is in the Montana Mountain series, or the Montana Men series, I guess it is. And this one was at the end of the book, and I thought the last quote was just an amazing quote, and I've quoted it a couple times. It just kind of gave you warm and fuzzy. So the quote is, so love has set her free and allowed her to soar. And I thought that was just an awesome quote at the end of a romance novel. I was sweet and sappy. So that's my end. And
10. Tag your it.
And if you're watching this, tag. I don't know who to tag. I don't know who would do this and who wouldn't do this, but there you go. Tag, you're it. So as always, link down below, you will find all of the links to the books I've talked about in this tag. They will have the author, the title, the author, the NLS catalog number, and the Goodreads links to all of the books. There will also be the links to all of the YouTubers I've talked about in this challenge. You will also find the link to my blog that will contain all of the books and the information for this challenge. You will also find the link to my full blog, which will contain all of the book challenges and any other book tags and readathons that I've currently been doing. You will find the link to my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Goodreads. And as always, keep on reading.
If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and make sure you ring that bell for notifications.